Clippers fans,
what is going on?
I don't know. Welcome to an impromptu episode of Clips and Dip, Season 2, Episode 46. Impromptu because the Clippers just had their best regular season win, I think, since the Wizards, that comeback against the Wizards with the Luke Kennard 4-point play and everything. There was no Zubats. The Clippers win this game in absurd fashion, 115-96. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't that close.
It was not.
I don't know. We're live on YouTube right now over at youtube.com/@Clippers podcast. Will, how are you feeling after whatever the hell this was?
Absolutely ecstatic. It's so interesting that both of these games, it's so hard to take anything away. But this is, I mean, the Clippers just they were on the second night of a back-to-back, and how late they got into Boston. It's just absolutely incredible. I talked a little bit last night with Adam, and I wasn't completely ruling out the win, but I did not think it was going to be like this.
No, we're waiting for kind of the final breakdown for per quarter stuff to come in, but the Clippers in the third quarter just
took care of business.
Accelerated past the Celtics.
Took care of business on a different level, man.
That was this game, like the Celtics shot horribly in this game. So did
the Clippers. They were both terrible to start though from three.
Yeah, I mean they both ended 10 for 40 from three. Both teams were 10 for 40 from three. It was horrible.
Both teams missing their starting center. I don't know. It's like this one is. I don't know.
This feels fed. This is the best win. This is the best win of the season by far, by miles, by leaps and bounds.
It's not close. It's not close. This felt different. And these teams always play each other, like, for the most part. You know, I know there have been 2 blowouts this year, but these teams generally play each other pretty close. These are usually pretty exciting matches to watch and have been throughout the 2-1-3 era, actually even going back to the year before. But this was on a different level. I talked yesterday with Adam about what they need to do well and set the defensive tone. And I thought like the defense really from both sides, but especially from the Clippers to start this game was playoff. Like that was it was playoff level.
Yeah, and the way that they answered the bell, right? Jason Tatum came out and scored 7 straight points for the Celtics to open the second half. And the Clippers just rolled with it. They said, okay, great. We're going to answer every single bucket that you managed to get. He felt a little comfortable early to start this game. You know, he's had good games against the Clippers before, but the defensive intensity, like you mentioned, from Kawhi to start this game, Paul George looked great.
Daniel Tice has to get a shout out. I thought, he had a great game.
Best game of his Clippers career, I think, for Daniel Tice. He shot 88%, 18-7. Some of that was in garbage time, but the rebounding in this game, the rebounding numbers make me really happy from the Clippers in this game. Listen to the amount of boards guys got. Kawhi, 7 boards. Paul George, 6 boards. Plumlee, 7. Terrence, 6. Harden, 8. You had Daniel Tice with 7 boards too. Every single bigger guy was contributing in the paint to grab boards, which is what everyone was concerned about, which makes total sense. That's not a knock with this Celtics team, you know, and the Clippers' size, but everyone was crashing the boards tonight. It was, this is a different win. This is a different kind of win than we're used to seeing from the Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back. They got it at 2 a.m. Could not be happier with this.
I mean, not to be too negative, right? But like these are the kind of games that we've expect kind of getting dumped on us. So throughout times in this 2-3 era, like a really big matchup, and you know, it kind of fizzles out. And this team, like they overcame stuff too. Like it's not like we talked about 3-point shooting not being red hot. James not super efficient, still great out there. Everything is just coming together, and I loved what we got out of the role players. Terrence Mann and Amir Coffey really stood out to me. They were both great. Russ had that little sort of rough stretch from the first quarter into the second, and Ty subbed in Terrence pretty quickly there. And
Terrence shot off that when Terrence got subbed in. What did he get? He got a dunk and then a steal, or a steal and then a dunk. Like it was immediate impact. We do have to talk about this X-Mongo project in the chat. Also, this is a live edition. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you want to hang out with us on weekends, sometimes if there's crazy games, we will go live over on YouTube, just kind of out of nowhere. It's very fun. YouTube.com/@Clippers podcast. X Mongo Project is saying, what can you say about that Russ technical dunk? It was bullshit, right? He should not have gotten.
I thought it was a little soft, but I think you have to consider the context of like
he got hit in the face though. Like
he did hang on the rim a little bit, and the Clippers were up 30.
Stop, play defense.
That's true. That's true. Don't stop. You don't need to baby these guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk. Boys. They're big boys out there.
We're gonna talk about everyone who is great, but Zexus Howe pointed out James Harden with 9, 8, and 7 plus 36 LMAO. James Harden was 2 for 11 in this game, didn't make a 3, and was still plus 36.
His gravity, though, and the way he was able to penetrate the paint was still, I mean, just immensely valuable. And he took that knock on his ankle too.
Both ankles, yeah. He like came into the game with a knock and then landed on. Was that Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown with the reach in the landing space, which Jaylen Brown I thought was pretty chippy to start this game. I'm not saying that he's dirty or anything like that because I don't think that, but like he was definitely physical early. He was looking to set a tone. He didn't get called for a foul on a Kawhi transition dunk, which kind of drove me crazy.
He pushed him. Yeah, that was bullshit.
I hate the push in the back. Like, you know, you're in the air. You have no idea it's coming. And again, I know the intent wasn't there. He wasn't trying to do anything bad. It was just clearly a foul and probably should have been called. And I think I'm feeling a little bit sensitive about Kawhi because he's not an all-star starter. And I feel like
you and Adam working yourselves into furies.
He's not always getting the superstar calls, and it's BS.
No, I agree. If you're new to the pod, Adam Oslin, who works for AM 570 and is doing the post game right now, if you want to go listen to it and help him out, is our other co-host, but we're just doing the live today. David Nagy said Jaylen Brown was upset because Paul told him vaccines work before game. Thank you for that, David Nagy. That was very funny. One last thing on Harden. If you didn't know exactly what Harden brings to the Clippers and what makes the Clippers so much better with James Harden, today was the example. Today was the game to watch and say, this is the man directing traffic. Like you mentioned, his gravity, his decision-making is fantastic. He's making Mason Plumlee look like he's played a lot more basketball in this starting lineup than he has. And Mason Plumlee was great today. But the reason Mason Plumlee's great and goes 4 for 4, a large part of that is because James Harden is helping him look good. So
the way he can elevate guys all like around him is it's pretty remarkable, even at this stage in his career.
7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio for James Harden tonight. Someone mentioned in the comments as well, Famel, whatever that is, mentioned that the Clippers took care of the ball in this one. 7 turnovers for the Clippers in this one. Which in a game where the Celtics only turned over 11 times, like this is such a weird game to try and contextualize a little bit too, I think. But we've talked about Harden. Let's get into kind of Paul and Kawhi, and then we'll try and contextualize this, I guess. But what did you like from Kawhi in this game?
I mean, what didn't I like? He had 12 of our 26 points in that first quarter. He was just a huge tone setter. It was just incredible. And I thought in the third too, he was a huge reason that we pulled away. He was just utterly dominant. I always make the comment like he's ready to go home. He's like, let's wrap this up. I'm ready to go home.
That spin on Pritchard and then dunking on Luke Cornett, it was like, this is over. The game is over, everybody. Let's run the clock. Let's get out of here.
That was nasty.
66% from the field in a game where the Clippers only shot 44% as a team. Plus 27, the second best on the team. 2 steals, 2 blocks. He's doing everything so well on both ends of the floor.
Totally. Paul, I thought Paul had a little bit of a slow start in this one. Like his percentages aren't that bad. Finished with 17, 6, and 1. He had like kind of a classic Paul George turnover early. He got stripped at one point by
threes were huge though. In a game where there's only 10 made threes by the Clips, him going 3 of 6.
Agreed. No, he turned it around though from a slow start to he's always going to be a positive contributor when he's out there. And the threes, I think he still finished around 50%.
Yeah, he was 3 for 6.
3 of 6. Yeah. I guess just in a game where James doesn't really have it going. You would like to see Paul maybe score a little bit more. But like, what
He does
do
have
you
the
want me to take
injury,
away from
too.
this?
Yeah,
You know, like I'm trying to put some thorns in with these roses because
Right.
it is like, I mean, this is
It's a hard game
this
to
is
beat.
unbelievable right now.
Yeah.
This is the third streak of 5 or more wins for the Clippers this season.
Yeah,
Is that what you were saying?
let me pull it up. I'll have to pull up the schedules and results, but
I
also PG only 22 minutes.
let us know in the chat, but like, have the 2-1-3 era Clippers, can you, like, during any other stretch, have you thought of them as this dominant? Like maybe in 2020?
Yeah, but I mean, not like it's different. It looks
Yeah.
different. So yeah, right now we have, it's not so they had the 9 game. This is the third at least 5 game win streak for the Clippers in this season. They had the 9er, they had a 5, and then this is 5 again. So this is unprecedented territory. Chai Zong mentioned in the chat, killed the season transition tonight after forcing their own turnovers too. That was a thing that was a big difference to me in this game, was the Clippers would get a deflection, and then sometimes in years past on the second night of a back-to-back, something like that happens, and maybe they don't get back as fast enough. That happened one time early, but then every other time that they had a chance in transition, they were running. They were ready to go. Like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've said the Clippers don't look like the team that played yesterday when they did.
No,
This is one of the times. This is maybe the 5th time that that's ever happened. So they're making good on every single thing they said in the offseason so far.
Yeah. Love it.
People are saying maybe best stretch in 2021, maybe small stretch in 2021. I think that's fair. This is what's smart, though. It is a different form of dominance now with all that off ball and ball movement. That's the issue. The Clippers were so good individually, but systematically, it never really felt as dominant as it should be.
Yeah.
In the 2-1-3 era, even when they had Lou and
even in
Trez
2021, I mean, they had such an efficient half-court offense, which, you know, is a good indicator for the playoffs when things slow down. But I always, the one thing that I always struggled with the Clippers offensively is they didn't have a lot of ability to sort of like change tempo or do a lot of other things. Like we would see a lot of possessions where you know who the ball is going to, and you know that they're going to kind of grind down the shot clock, and you know who's going to end up with the shot, which was fine because, you know, they were dominant and still killing it. But seeing this completely different look, it just feels so much more cohesive, so much more tangible that this is a legit contender.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people in the chat. Thank you to everyone coming in. Also, by the way, hanging out over here at Clippers Podcast over on YouTube. If you're listening, it's going to be available in pod form too if you want to force your coworkers to listen to it or something like that. We're talking the Clippers' complete shellacking of the Boston Celtics. Thanks in part to an incredible third quarter. Thanks in part to, you know, a bad shooting game from the Celtics, but it's not like the Clippers were lighting it up from deep in this one. They also only made 10 threes. I don't know. Does this game, so we talked about pretty much everyone who played. We talked about Tice, we talked about Terrence, we talked about Harden, Amir Coffey. I think I saw his name in there in the chat. Also, JJ the boy. I'm ready to get hurt again. I'm fully in on this Clippers team now.
Yeah.
I'm in the hopium den. I have my spot. I have my, like, this is it. I'm ready now. I am fully ready now. Punch me in the face again. Let's do it.
So someone asked in the chat earlier, where, you know, Clippers 2 games into the Grammy road trip right now. We talked about this a little bit on the pod. We know the Clippers' internal goal was to go 6-1. I think you and I both handicapped it at 5-2.
Yes. I think you said 4-3, but
that was Adam.
Oh, okay. Okay. Our other co-host Adam, for those of you just joining.
So 5-2, we were still pretty optimistic. Do you think it's time to maybe reassess?
I don't know. 5-2 is really good in a 7-game road trip. They're playing 7 games in 11 days. They end on a 3-5. Their next 2 games. Is that when we get Wizards Pistons? Because they get a Wizards Pistons.
I think that's the mid. It's like the mid Grammy trip kind of tune up.
They go Cavs, Wizards, Pistons.
That Cavs game is tough.
I'm not going to be surprised if they lose to the Cavs after what they did. I mean, but also it's not like it was a hard fought game tonight.
No,
right? This game didn't go down to the wire. The Clippers.
It was over after the third quarter.
Yeah, the Clippers didn't have to do a lot. If that makes sense. I know they played fantastic, but offensive, effort. It was just like everyone was so cohesive and on the same page that it didn't look that difficult.
Yeah, it didn't look like they were. I mean, they were expending a lot of effort. They were expending a lot of effort on the defensive end. But for the second night of a back-to-back, it was unreal. They looked really locked in where it was effortless.
Yeah, so the Cavs game is going to be difficult. But that Wizards Pistons in there, I'm feeling, but I still think 5-2, 5-2, and I'm still incredibly happy.
Oh, 5-2 is
it's great.
Yeah, nothing
but
wrong
6-1 is also, I guess, on the table now. Because you said that the Raptors game was a must win, which I fully agreed with. And now it's like, okay, I guess I don't want them to obviously lose a game they shouldn't on this road trip, but it just stings a little less.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Amir. David McCann had this. Amir's is a proper good player now. Great to see. Very British praise from David McCann for Amir Coffey. Amir looks... He's outplaying his contract by a whole lot. He didn't make a 3 tonight, which is fine, but he's been on fire. Prior to this game, I think he had shot 74% in his last 13 games.
Unreal.
Is what he was shooting.
Look, I mean, for a team that we know has had their issues drafting, and certainly in the 2-1-3 era hasn't had a lot of developmental minutes or sort of road to develop guys on your roster to build internally. I mean, Amir Coffey is a huge success story, both himself as a player and, it's one of the brighter spots for this organization from a developmental perspective. I mean, he is
a lone success story, one of the few.
Was it 2 seasons ago when he played in the summer league and we were like, this is the year that Amir has to show out? He had kind of a ho-hum setting. He got ejected from a game and we were like, what is the future?
He had a rough offseason this offseason. He did not have the easiest offseason. Also, real quick, David McCann is from Ireland, not England. Very different. Thank you for the comment, David McCann. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, I same thing. It's just the development is incredible. The way he's bought in, it's I don't know, it's wild. And he's clearly physically done the work. He's worked on his shot. His finishing looks great. I just don't know what more you could ask for.
And he is now, every year he's been with the Clippers. He's been with the Clippers, I mean, since 2020, right? So he's been with this team for kind of a long time. He's kind of a vet on this version of the Clippers.
Oh, 100%.
He's a vet.
Oh, yeah.
And it's nice for guys like, this is a great example for Bones Highland to see, hey, man, sometimes I think Bones' ceiling is higher than Amir's, but sometimes it's like, hey, man, this is a team where you actually will get the playing time when it's your time. If you do what you're supposed to do, you are actually going to get your time. We might have to talk about a Brandon Boston take I have, but that's later. We're talking about all good things now. So we talked about Amir. Norm Powell, not his best game. Norm Powell did not have a good game. Norm and Russ were the two worst players in this game. If he's
not sinking it from 3, something's up. Something's wrong for the Clippers.
Yes. There's been something happening though with Norm over the last 3 or 4 games where he is putting in a level of effort on low post defense specifically that we have not seen him do before. He's challenged a couple shots at the rim kind of sporadically over these last couple of games, which is just a surprise to see from a guy like Norm.
Yeah.
He had a really tough defensive board today that kind of helped push the pace. Something's different with how he's playing on the defensive end. I think it's like when you see Zoo get a little pep in his step or something like that. Norm looks like there's been a shift in focus on defense, which in a really good way for the Clippers. So he was great on that aspect tonight. But yeah, Norm and Russ, not their best nights. Only
17 minutes for Norm in this one.
Yes, and then only 15 for Russ. So it's also credit to Ty Lue. Ty Lue did a great job. When things were going on with Russ, he brought in Terrence. It worked out. Norm had kind of a short leash on this one. Literally everyone but 2 guys had such a complete and perfect game.
Well, now that you bring that up, and
Agreed,
somebody
Wayne Jenkins. I agree with this take.
Westbrook's tech was a joke.
It was a joke.
And now that we've talked about coffee, like, so Joseph McGee wants to know who will get out of the rotation when Zoo gets back in 4 weeks. And I'm just wondering where you're at right now. Like, what do you think are the Clippers' top 8 guys?
I have to go top 8. I'm going to start with the Joseph McGee question first, which also, this sounds like Joseph Ryan Ward using a fake name, which would be really funny. I think it is Daniel Tice.
Is out of the rotation.
Out of the rotation. I think the Clippers like to play with a big. They're a small-ish team right now and things like that. I think it might be Tice. Tice has been very good. This isn't a knock on Tice at all, but I don't know who else is right. Like, who is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard.
And again, SK is saying Tice has been great. I totally agree, but like, who else is missing time? Everyone else is playing so good in the role that's really needed.
I think it'll just be matchup. It's gonna be matchup dependent, which is a good problem for the Clippers to have, especially given some of their size.
Good problem.
And their like size, some of their size deficiencies with the excess of guards.
Yeah, this is a really funny comment to me. One team was missing their most important big, but great job by the Clippers pushing through that adversity.
The Clippers were missing their most important big.
The Clippers
what the hell are you talking about? Both teams were missing their starting center.
So this is an interesting comment. Roger Alfonso, I think they will go 9 deep. I think that's kind of fair. Like, I don't know I'm buying time right now because I don't know who to say that my top 8. I can't do a top 8. How about that? I wouldn't do a top 8. I think I agree with Roger. I think we should do 9 right now.
Okay. So 9. All right. So obviously just the starters, and I'm including Zoo in that, not Mason currently.
Okay. Yeah.
So the starters, Norm. Wow, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
It's really hard, dude.
Honestly, okay, this game might be coloring it, but I might. Oh, damn, this one's really hard. Okay, so I might go Norm, Mason, Coffee.
Norm, Mason, Coffee.
And then Russ if we're going top 9.
Norm, Mason, Coffee, Russ. Sorry, I'm just looking at
who am I leaving out?
I mean, Amir? Oh, wait, no, you said Coffee. Norm, Mason, Coffee. I mean, you're leaving out. Russ is in the top 9. He's
in the top 9. I don't know if he's in my top 8 right now. No, and that's no shade. The Clippers just look really.
Will's literally ducking shots.
Oh God,
Will is
don't come for me. All right.
The bad thing about Russell Westbrook and you're walking in zigzags on the sidewalk.
I hear a curse in the wind.
Yeah, William Blast, and the quote says Tice too. It's tough. It's kind of a toss up. I think on the margins it is matchup dependent though. I think Ty Lue's going to do some matchup dependent stuff with that. Because it is flow, right? We saw that tonight. We saw effectively, 15 minutes is not a lot of minutes for Russ. He's averaging 23 minutes per game on the season for the Clips. I know that maybe I thought that looked a little high to me when I actually looked it up. But that's effective. That's a pretty short leash in a game where the last 7 minutes or so are garbage time. Right. So we're seeing Ty Lue kind of play with just some guys' rotation minutes a little more like quick decision now that we've had this continuity. Ty Lue can make these changes quicker. So I think we might see some of those games where like randomly it'll be like, oh, Tice didn't play the first 3 quarters. And then it's like he had a little session, he had like a little shift in the 4th or something after Ty saw something happen. But credit to Ty Lue in this game too. He had the guys fucking prepared. That's something that we haven't really talked about a bunch is the Clippers look prepared for every single game this year. They don't look like anything's really, because sometimes you'd watch this Clippers team and you're like, how did this happen? How's this happening? They're prepared. They were prepared for Jason Tatum to come back at them. They knew what they were supposed to do if like a run happened. It was fantastic.
There was a moment in that first quarter where Ty Lue took a timeout pretty early. I think it was a 1-possession game. I want to say it was 7-9 Celtics lead. And the team looked notably different after coming out of that timeout and went on that run that, I mean, basically set.
He said we can leave 15 minutes early from this horrible city if you guys lock it up. is probably what happened. William Blast says he will keep Daniel in the rotation even if his minutes are less. He's played too well to bench him like Bones. That's the other part. Everyone's playing so well. No one is really the weak link for the Clippers right now in a way that like, oh, you're costing us games. They haven't lost very many games.
Yeah. And it might have been a snub for me to not have Tice in my top 8. It's so hard.
Yeah, because you can't. But so that's why I think Plumlee, because I think they're going to want to play with size.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, especially, right? Like we saw some of the small ball against Minnesota, which was interesting. We saw it. Russ played some center the other day and stuff like that, which I think we might use to get by in the regular season when Zoo is out, say for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it's going to be. But I don't know if we're going to be going small in the playoffs unless it's like we need something.
It might be like a weird thing to close out a quarter or something. But I mean, overall, I've got the impression, I mean, it seems pretty clear that Ty Lue was never really fully sold on like the wing stop, small ball kind of setup. So I think that it's, that's a pretty reasonable prediction to think that likely Mason would see a little bit more time in the playoffs with a more traditional size. Also, just like with how James Harden's passing has opened things up for the bigs, it's really nice when shots aren't falling to be able to just toss it to the big fella for a little while.
Make it easy.
Whether that be Zoo, whether that be Mason. We've seen Tice do it at times, but obviously, he'll struggle a little bit more there. But what he brings on the defensive end, I don't know.
And this is like the wing stop situation felt like a good problem to have for the Clippers, but it never felt actually good. Like it never actually worked. And this one feels like it's going to work.
I think one of the problems with that was it was like a lot of guys who had kind of overlapping skill sets.
Yeah.
And now we have guys who like they work together. Not that those teams didn't work together, but everything gels together really well. But there's also kind of a hierarchy of roles, if that makes sense, that I think leads to a little less confusion, a little less like muddledness on the floor.
Yeah, guys know what their job is. Like Terrence used to have to play 4 positions in a week.
That's a great point. Yes.
Terrence would play center one game, and then he'd have to start at the 2, and then maybe he'd start at the 1. Like Terrence had no real role. Now he has a role, and he's been fantastic. We're going to take a quick break for the podcast listeners because we are going to put this out audio-wise too. We're going to talk this question, a lot of trade questions. Ads have been loud for some people. Go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up and a little bit of trade talk in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're back in with Clips and Dip. If you're listening, if you're watching right now, we never went away. You should be watching. That's over on youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in. So we want to get to a question here. Buzz Onko, I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at pronouncing I'm really bad at pronouncing it. I'm so sorry. But they want to know, in your point of view, does something happen during the trade deadline?
Man,
my question right now is, what do you want? What, seriously, like you just saw this team blow out Boston. We just saw this team blow out Boston. Like, what do you want? What in your mind, when Zubats is back, do you think this team is missing? Because I'm not saying that it's perfect. There are moves to be made on the margins for sure. But like, what do you really want, and what are you really willing to give up?
Channeling your inner Nav right now. One of the worst.
God damn it, that
artists of all time. I don't know. So I think we both just saw this comment. Like this feels like the play. Like this comment from Junction. I want a player that doesn't wet the bed in garbage time. Like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. We've never been in this territory I personally have never had this level of belief in a real sense with the 2-1-3 era Clippers. So I don't know what we can trade to make me believe in this team anymore, or that can give me an example of how good they can be and how locked in they are. The biggest issue with this Clippers team has always been treating the regular season seriously and not letting their focus slip in games where it shouldn't slip. They've answered that incredibly well to start this season. We're halfway through the season and they're playing their best basketball in this era. You know what I mean? I have no idea what could make this team better. Call me delusional. That's fine. 6:48 p.m. January 27th. We just smacked it on the Boston Celtics without Ivica Zubats. on the second night of a back-to-back. They got in at 2 a.m. today. I don't know what can make this team better. And I'm sure that's glib. I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to wake up and say, we're still a little small against the Lakers. Zoo's out. I don't think adding a center makes any sense. We're going to roster 4 centers on this team.
I don't get that.
Like,
I don't.
We're going to switch out one of the 2 really great backup centers we have. Zubats, Tyson, Plumlee is the best 3 centers you can possibly have on a team
for this team,
one
for
time.
Sure. For this team, for sure.
I don't think there's any team that has 3 centers as good as those 3 guys.
Should the Clippers maybe consider making a trade to get a little bit worse? Have you considered that perhaps their swag is too different? They smoke too tough. Their bitch is too bad. They might be killed.
Honestly, what do you see? Like, I know that was kind of a long rant. I don't usually lose my mind like that, I guess. But like, this team is just, I don't know. I don't know what makes them better. Like, I don't know what size we add on the wing.
You know what?
What size are we adding on the wing? Someone to take PJ Tucker's place? He's been DNP'd, so we don't even need that guy, and they're still playing the best basketball in the league.
I would actually feel really good about standing pat. Like, if this was the first year that it was like, we don't need to make a move to improve this roster. All we need is continuity and to keep playing the way that we're going to play. I think that would be kind of a new chapter for this Clippers team in the 2-1-3 era. And I mean, personally, I think that's a little exciting, is it not? You look at these teams like the Nuggets that, obviously they didn't retain everybody over after the championship run, but like they have so much continuity.
Yeah.
And that's been one of those things that like the Clippers have never had. They've never had the luxury of that. So as much as we love trades and I like the idea of like a margin move or something in theory, like it would be kind of cool if we're good, right? Like,
yeah. And if you want to trade the 20, for those of you also wondering, Will and I are just in the same house right now, which is really funny. You might know it's the same cat. If you want to do a big trade, like someone, Seth G, who has been following and engaging a bunch with the account. We really appreciate it, Seth. Thank you,
Seth G.
He said Jeremy Grant. A guy like Jeremy Grant.
I would love Jeremy Grant. You have to give up so much.
The 2030 pick is so far out. It's a long way out, and I know that it's the all-in year and everything like that. But we did that. We got James Harden. If this team looks so much better with this version of all-in after getting Harden. I don't know. It seems difficult.
And I understand like the common theory, right? Is like if you're having a season this good, you might as well put all your chips in. But like, what if the pot's not getting any sweeter?
Yeah, I like that idea. And that point about Denver is really good too. They're a consistent team. The main guys have been there. A lot of people saying team stand pat. Cody Jacobs, team stand pat. Also saying Cody Jacobs, if it's not broken, don't fix it. This team is really good. They're going to have some rest coming up ish for the All-Star break before heading into a really hard part of the schedule. I know if you listen to the show, you know that we joke about March a lot, but 17 games, a large percentage of their schedule happens in like a month. So we're going to really see kind of really we know what the team can do. We're going to see what they're really made of in March.
We're getting a lot of Blake stuff in here, and I love the idea. I don't know that I see it.
Like for the vibes?
What vibes?
I don't know. Your own personal nostalgia vibes?
I mean, for my own personal nostalgia vibes, important. I get that.
That's what's important. Trance addict, not Trank addict, saying stay put in their opinion. I like that. Do we have anything else we want to say? Like when I'm still coming down from this Clippers win at 7 p.m. in LA. Feels much later than that. Feels like it's 2 a.m. I'm so hyped up. I don't know. Anything else we want to say? They're playing the Hawks. Or sorry, they're not playing the Hawks. I'm out of it. They're playing the Cavs. Oh, this is a nice little stat. Thank you. Taz Vortex. Clippers are 13-1 with Terrence Mann scoring 10+ points. Hell yes.
Love it.
Terrence Mann. This is a question I had. Who's at the halfway point? Who's the most improved Clipper for you this year? It's a hard question. Chat, let us know who you think the most improved Clipper is this year. I generally think it's like that's.
Well, it's interesting because I think we've always had the suspicion that Terrence Mann could do this in the starting lineup. So that's a big one. Everyone's saying Zoo, which is also a good one. Like Zoo, we've always said that he has this double-double potential. We've been waiting every season for him to take a leap of this magnitude, and he's done it. But like also cool, like
we got a couple of Kawhis. I think that's kind of funny. I could listen to the argument. I could hear it.
He's, I mean, a top 3, top 2 player in the NBA. Like,
yes, absolutely. David Day saying bots. I think Zoo's a great one. We can't say James Harden, but James Harden has improved the Clippers the most.
Yeah,
this year. But yeah, I think Zoo's a really good answer. Amir and Zoo for me, like you can pick either of those two guys because Amir, we've seen flashes of it. We saw him play great in the January a couple seasons ago and stuff like that. But he's doing it on a consistent level, and his defense has gotten so much better. So I think I have to go Zoo just because he plays more. But
and is a starter, and like I think we were kind of at a level where we thought Zoo had maybe reached his ceiling, and it wasn't a bad ceiling by any means, but it wasn't the level. It wasn't like, I mean, he's an indisputable, like how many championship contenders could he be a starter for, like at playing at this level? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, man, what a great problem to have. Who is the most improved Clipper? It's a difficult question. Jaden Sanders is saying Russ. I don't know about that. He's been better this year for sure, but I don't know if he's improved as much as Amir in Zoo. Wayne Jenkins saying Ty Lue, which I think is a great take. I think that makes a lot of sense. Ty Lue has coached really well. He's got the guys to buy in on the focus.
After some heat from the fans, I feel like.
Yes, people were talking about firing.
I was hearing fire Ty Lue every day during
I was hearing some wild shit. Andrew Opilas says, Chuck the Condor, he's so hyped.
He's already won mascot of the year. How can he do any better? You can't be any more improved than that.
I don't think he's that hype.
Mascot of the year.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you, the only mascot of the year I recognize is Monty from the University of Montana. All right. We got to head out. I have to do the radio with Adam in a couple minutes. Do we have anything else we want to say to these fans? We're doing an episode with all three of us tomorrow after football and stuff, but anything else we want to send these fans off with? What are you feeling?
I don't know. This is just the most real the Clippers look. I think national media and obviously Boston fans are going to add a million asterisks to this win. But this was real. And what this team did, considering being on the second night of a back-to-back, considering the insane travel, considering the way that we've talked ourselves into excuses for this team every single year, like to see them at this level and like actually making good on the promises and what they've said, like this feels very real right now. And I think everybody should be super excited after this dominant performance.
I love that. That's perfect. I have nothing else to add to that. We will be back tomorrow with a recorded episode with the full crew. Adam Osmond will be here too. He's hosting on AM 570. If you're in LA, go ahead and listen to it. I'm going to be on that in just a couple minutes. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. You can find us on Twitter over @ClippersPod. The YouTube is @ClippersPodcast. Find the podcast everywhere you can review us. We love it. We need it. We'll read it on air. And as always,